Welcome back, guys. It's the Meloman, and I have cornered Cristo Dobrasco today, and I'll tell you that a lot of people are interested in what Cristo's got to say. I know there was a lot of response to the share that Lee Molson from Disease to Ease made on the page, and a lot of people were hyped about this interview today. So I'm excited about it, and this is the first time that I've actually talked with Cristo. I've been following him kind of in the background for a little over a year, I guess a year and a half, because I saw that he was posting so openly about this UT, about this plasma ultrafiltrate. He's been talking about that openly for the last year and a half. And I got to say, when I first started watching him, I was really intrigued by his self-assuredness and self-confidence and willingness to openly express this. Nobody that I know or that I knew, especially a year and a half ago, was willing to really speak about this so openly. So I was just, amazed by his truth. And now that I've just spoken to him for the first time here for just 5 minutes, I understand a little bit more about this gentleman. And I've already got a heart for him. He set out initially to gain freedom. That's what he was looking for. Gain freedom from his family, from what was going on in his family life. Maybe I'll let him talk a little bit about that, and I hope he will share that, because I was already moved from the story that he already shared. He also had a past history of trying to protect his son from immunization from the government or from the powers that be, or whoever is in charge, the medical community, the medical industry, whoever's in charge of enforcing that your children get immunized. Cristo was in a battle with that, had to leave the state because of it. So he had to move. So he's always had kind of a bit of a challenge and a battle going on with the medical industry. And that was also been driving him. So he's had a little bit of a personal family battle, and he's had a battle with the state, the medical industry. And that's all led him to go independent, go rogue. He lives in his van. I got to say, thumbs up to anyone that's taken the jump to go off the grid and be self-contained and self-sustaining. This is what it's all about. And it fits perfectly with the choice he's made to be self-sustaining and looping UT. Amazing. What a life story. I'm glad I got him here on the line, on the call with me. I got a short time with him today. Let's probe into the life of Cristo Dobrasco. Welcome, buddy.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me on. And I did want to say that it's Dobraccio.
Dobraccio.
No huge deal. Oh. It's my grandmother's name.
Let me correct that.
That's all right. That's all right. Just saying, just in case anybody else notices, I just wanted them to know that. So,
all right. I stand corrected. I stand in my new shirt. Hey, say, how do you like my new shirt, man?
Just being vegan. Nice.
Yeah. Nice. I got this. Somebody gifted this to me. I'm not sure who. I know they reached out to me and told me they were going to send me this shirt. I forget who it was. I received the shirt. I said I would wear it. I'm really grateful for the shirt. So I want to say thank you and give a shout out to whoever sent this. Please leave a comment below. And I'm grateful for it. And I'll make sure I acknowledge whoever sent this. Thank you. Chris, you're all about trying to get freedom. You're all about trying to show that we're self-sustaining. How does that link up here? To what you've done and what's going on? Why are you trying to be free? What were you trying to be free from? And what are you doing to be free now, Chris?
Well, I think like many of us, I always knew that I just felt like we were getting screwed from a young age. I just felt like something was wrong, something was off. Everything that was built up around us just seemed messed up. It seemed like control. I felt oppressed by it always. And I always wanted to know. I never had the answers. I didn't know what they were doing or who it was. I just couldn't understand as a kid. So I just started learning everything I could. I didn't trust anything from institutions. I always took it all with a grain of salt. My dad was that way as well. He never took us to a doctor except when we were little, and we were born, and they actually took my tonsils out when I was a kid. The medical industry, in their wisdom, even though the tonsils are part of your immune system, they decided we didn't need it somehow, and my parents fell for that one. So yeah, I had my tonsils removed. I would be with them. So anyways, really just kind of grew up with a mistrust of the medical industry to begin with. And I watched my uncle die of cancer. They were cutting off part by part until my dad said, enough, you guys aren't doing any more of this. We want to actually have something left of him. And shortly after that, I found out in the mid-90s that there was a cure for cancer. And it was apricot seeds. And I know there's tons of cures, but I knew that in 1995. And the guy that I heard that from, I was a Christian at the time, and the guy I heard that from was he calls himself Dr. Dino. Oh my gosh, I just
Doctor
know his
who?
name so
Doctor
well.
who?
Dr. Dino.
Dr. Dino.
He actually went to jail. He went to prison for a while. They had him in a maximum security in Colorado. He was speaking on cancer a lot, and he's the one I heard about B17 from, apricot seeds, and found out that the bitter almond tree, had been banned by the FDA. I found out that Italians make amaretti, like a cookie, out of apricot kernel flour, and apricot kernels have cancer killer in them. I think they know something. I think those cookies there's a reason. A lot of cultures use those seeds. But anyways, so there began a great mistrust right there. And once I found out about the cancer cure, I just went off in a million directions and learned a million different things, like many of us, and heard about urine therapy. And before I learned about urine therapy, I had been going through some tough times with my dad dying in 2012. He died of Alzheimer's, and it was from or at least what we're told, it was from the metals in his fillings. He had some extensive dental work, old school, and he didn't know that stuff was leaching into his bloodstream and messing up his brain. But by the time he realized, it was a little too late. Physically, he was number one in the world in powerlifting for his age and weight, and he was powerlifting till he was upper 70s. I think, I don't know, maybe even 80 was the last meet he went to before he started getting Alzheimer's.
Wow.
And
Wow.
he was number 2 in the world in Olympic lifting.
Wow.
He was a strong mother. He was a brick wall.
Wow. Wow.
So we had a gym in our living room as kids.
I've got a gym in my basement.
Nice.
Amazing.
Oh man, do you remember the old steel racks, and like everything was made of steel, the plates and everything.
Yeah.
It was crazy, interesting upbringing. It was kind of a rough deal, but
Wow.
yeah, it made me who I am, I guess.
Yeah.
Not just that, but the way my dad was. And so I'm going off topic. Remember I told you about that? You're going to have to lead me back.
So you
My son was diagnosed with ADD. Go ahead.
Yeah, you said I'll let you go on with your son here. Your son, go on.
Well, I'm jumping ahead in a way, but yeah, my son was diagnosed with ADD. We thought it was going to be a small deal where we're talking to the school nurse and the principal maybe and the teacher, kind of a thing. We show up and there's like 20 people there from every government agency in Colorado practically that had anything to do with families and kids, and there's a shitload of them sitting there telling us that my son writing stuff on pieces of paper while he's sitting in class is a bad thing and needs to be medicated for it. And I remember telling them that maybe their schooling was just too boring for him, because that's how I felt anyways. I started really going against that whole school system too, which, by the way, I believe in unschooling for kids. I don't believe in school for kids. It's brainwashing, and we learn a bunch of crap. I mean, look at us. We had to relearn almost everything. We end up having to relearn almost everything. But yeah, so that pushed me in a direction of finding out everything I could, because once they threatened us with possibly taking our kids away and charging me with child neglect, that was it. I was never going to walk into a doctor's office again unless my head needed to be sewn back on. So I started learning. I told everybody around me, I said, I'm going to become my own doctor. These guys aren't geniuses. They're just learning what they're told. So I learned everything I could, and talking about dental and medical, and it's not difficult. It's really simple, as we've come to find. You don't need to know the names of a bunch of fake diseases that they attach a drug to. We don't need a degree to learn how to serve the corporate interests by drugging up the populace. I don't need that. So there you go. I'm trying to keep that short because, man, I could go on, and I don't want to be negative right now. I don't want to be too negative. But that's a driver. That's a big driver.
Yeah, and that's great to know that, Chris, and that's great to know that, and I think that's important that you shared it. And then you bumped into the truth teller Andrew Norton Weber when you were in Costa Rica.
Yes. I was listening to him, and sorry, I didn't mean to jump in and cut you off there. I think you're a great interviewer, by the way. Great job.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Because you're sitting here letting me talk and go on and on. So I'm sitting in Costa Rica because I had some government hoops to go through to export some vehicles. And while I was doing that, I was listening to some podcasts and YouTubes, and I came upon Andrew Norton Weber, and I could tell the guy was speaking the truth. I could just tell. Many of the things he was saying, I already knew. But then he started talking about urine therapy, and it blew me away. And I just, if anybody wants to know, I don't mock any theory. I mock nothing. I laugh at nothing that would make me ignorant, willfully ignorant, because I don't look into something because it's just too stupid for my brain to comprehend, which maybe means I'm too stupid. I don't know. So I look into everything. I don't laugh at anything. There's too much unknown in this world. There's too much we don't know. And I love to learn. And so I looked into urine therapy. And I was blown away. It took about 3 weeks or so before I could try it because it was just so foreign to me.
Yeah.
And what I did was I put a few drops in a cup, maybe an ounce, and about 7 or so ounces of water mixed with it.
Yeah.
And I just set it on a counter and walked away and pretended I didn't do it, didn't put anything in there. And then I walked back with the mindset of it's just water. And I looked up at the ceiling and pretended I was drinking a fruit juice and just pounded it down. And from there, I increased the amount of urine I was able to go. And I think it took me a couple weeks before I was just going straight with it. Mm-hmm. And I remember listening to Turmel is his name. I think that's his last name, John Turmel. I might be wrong on the last name. I might be wrong on the first name. I think it's Turmel. He's the older guy. He's really happy. He's a cool guy. And I think he said, and maybe it was somebody else, they said, don't be a pansy, just drink your damn pee, something like that. And that's how my dad used to talk. So it kind of, I'm like, okay, let's just drink this shit. Don't be a wimp. And okay, and I'm sorry for insulting it by using the word shit, because man, that stuff is far from that. It's literally us in liquid form. We are literally pissing ourselves away when we pee. Our blood contains our body. It contains everything in it. So we are literally pissing ourselves away. And I even think that term, pissing it all away, might have come from that mindset. I don't know. But so you were trying to fast forward to 2014. And I did start in 2015, June. I did a 12-day urine fast. I wasn't planning on 12 days. I just did 12 days. And it was just pee. I was using some distilled water in the first couple of days, but after that it was just straight pee. And I noticed that your volume increases as you go. So that water's coming from somewhere. In 2016, I kept looping. I kept drinking my pee all the way through and saving and doing some baths and aged and things like that. And then in 2016, I just got disgusted with myself. I was sitting down too much. I have a computer job, so I sit on my butt a lot in front of a computer. And I just started urine fasting again. And this time I did 12 days-ish, I believe. It's all documented on my Facebook wall from 2016, but I believe it was 12. I know it was at least 12 days. And I felt great. Once all the food was out of my body and my body didn't have to use any energy to digest, oh man. I mean, I could run for just hours.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hours and hours.
Exactly.
And I'm talking like 7-minute miles. I'm not talking like some lazy jog.
Right.
I'm talking running,
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that
So,
amazing? Isn't that amazing? And doesn't that, contradict everything that we are told about food and about nourishing our body? And we need to get all of these vitamins and these minerals and these proteins and these flavonoids and all of this stuff that we need to get in order for us to be healthy is what we're told, just so that we'll continue to buy more stuff and continue to keep this society of consumerism kind of going. And the truth is actually that we come into our greater health and greater strength as we realize that health and strength is just within us. Yep.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
We're self-contained.
Agreed.
We don't need government cheese lines, and if all hell broke loose, you would need nothing. If you have yourself set up to where you can go weeks and weeks on just your pee.
Yeah.
And not just survive, but thrive.
Yeah.
Actually feel damn good and look good.
Yeah.
At the same time with nothing. You could be the poorest person on the planet. And that was the other thing to me. I thought it just seems so unfair. And this is back with my mindset pre-UT, was it seems so unfair that people have to have so much money to buy all these supplements and all this stuff, and all these poor people around the world can't do it. It just didn't seem fair. And now come to find out, the poorest people can have the best health, and they do sometimes if they're practicing this. You could have nothing and have everything. That's what's freaking amazing and awesome.
Everything that we need for health is actually free, right?
Absolutely.
It's sunlight, it's ground, it's earthing, it's distilled water or urine therapy. It's managing our thoughts, our words, our actions. It's exercise. It's running or walking or hiking or getting into nature. Everything that we need to maximize and create our best self, the best representation of ourselves is absolutely free. And we're convinced that we need to get all of this stuff. And people just need to find out the truth. Health doesn't cost anything.
Nope. The best health is the freest.
The very best health is completely free, and we can all return to it without a nickel or a dime.
There you go. You know, my goal when I started fasting, and I went for 7 months, I went from March to October. And the reason I stopped, and I didn't stop, I use the word stop, but I stopped what I was doing, which was, I'd say about 95% urine. And I was throwing in a little, I don't know, 5 cashews or something once a week, kind of a thing. The reason, and that was 7 months, and everybody was saying I was going to wither away and, your organs are going to get eaten away. And those are people that don't understand the body. The body doesn't attack itself. It's not going to go the route of attacking the vital organs to survive. How does that even make sense when your body tries to fix itself all the time? Doesn't make sense. So, getting back, reel myself in here. So 7 months.
You're eating a few peanuts. That's about it.
And it was usually like raw cashews, or I'd have some leaves of lettuce, and it was almost like a it's pretty tough it really is tough to just have urine for a long time, because you just want to taste something. And I realized that I still had parasites in me that were wanting that taste. And by the way, the thing that really does purge parasites is aged urine or turpentine. Do that after a nice dry fast, and those things will go running. But anyways, so 7 months was broken up by the weather turning to cloudy and no sun. I needed the sun to continue on the way I was. It became really tough when I didn't see the sun. And I'm not saying it wasn't possible. It was just tough. And I was going through some things. It was a little depressing, to be honest. There were some things going on that affected that. But, when you choose this lifestyle, and just being real, and this, I'm sure, when you choose this lifestyle, most people aren't going to be on your side, to speak. It's just too out there for most people.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's it. It's like, it's so taboo by society that you'd be involved with anything that smells like a urinal, right?
Right.
It's just so disgusting. So, a big part of this, I think a humongous part of this, you have to change the misconceptions and the delusion that's been given and painted around it. One thing that has to happen is we've got to get away from the name. I think the name's got to go, because the name is, urine, urinal. It's stuff that comes from the doctor, from the medical community, the name, the medical name of this. And we've all associated so many negative things with the smell and with the bathroom and waste, and everything that we've been taught has been associated with this negative around this, with this stuff. And so what we need to do is we need to create a new association surrounding this magical stuff, because it's magical stuff, and we've never had a magical association with it. So I really like this new trending plasma ultrafiltrate idea, because now we're building a whole new kind of concept that we can re-educate the world with. And if we all put a positive association around this magic of plasma ultrafiltrate, then we can create something else that's different than urine and urine therapy. Like, it's almost like we need to stop saying urine and urine therapy, because that's like the old kind of negative associated word that's been put into us and onto us, you know? Like if we can kind of grow forward from that. Yeah, I think it's important for us to kind of start promoting something that is positive and positive associated with this magical fluid that's within us.
Yep. Maybe call it, Orin on a basic level is better because you're not pursing your lips. And that was something that Andrew Norton Weber also mentioned in his video.
So do you know the origins of Orin? I mean, I know doctors, Sage Ross, brother Sage Ross always talked about Orin. I can't remember if he told me where the word Orin comes from, but
I do not.
No, neither do I. I'm not sure. I will definitely get some research and post on where the origins of that comes from. I'll look that up.
Good deal.
Yeah. So 7 months on nothing but urine, a little bit of food once a week, but stalled by sunlight. Like sunlight's a big part of the transition. Another thing that we're told to stay out of the sun.
Man, dude, I have to tell you, that's another thing I wanted to not forget. And this is big. I think if we but if we tell people about this and kind of tell them some of the superficial benefits like weight loss and your skin will tan better, all that kind of stuff. That's what people want to hear. That's what motivates, sadly, a lot of people. The whole health thing, yeah, that's great. I can live twice as long. No big deal. I actually believe we can live a lot longer than what we're told too, by the way.
Yes, I think so too.
Anyways.
Hilton Hotema, if you want to research that, I mean, it's out there. The information and content is out there. You just need to do a little bit of research. Hilton Hotema is an excellent place to start with any of this longevity stuff.
I'm going to look into that.
Yeah, Hilton Hotema, fantastic research and information and experience. Man's Search for Higher Consciousness, I believe, is the name of the book that is the most popular book that he's got. You can get a digital copy for free if you do a little bit of searching. Dave Moore has it on his site, on his website. What more would you want to say about sunlight and longevity?
Oh, let me tell you, when the sun's out, I love to soak up every ray I can get. And yes, it gives you massive amounts of energy, especially when you are sun gazing with the sun low on the horizon. I noticed, and I'm trying to retrace and be chronological here about the 7 months. The 7 months was very strict. It was pee. And when I did have something, it was always raw. I didn't try anything cooked until after September. It was October. And there were a few things that had happened, and I would eat out with my daughters, but I would just sit there and eat like a plate of lettuce, or, I try to keep strict. But the 7 months was just about all pee. So when I gained energy from the sun, I definitely noticed it. And what I believe now from my experiences is that we gain lots of nutrients from the sun, many that we're not told about. Yeah. I guess they had to admit the vitamin D part just because some of the results people had already seen. But I think we get everything from the sun. I actually believe,
I suspect that
like
too.
Plants. Yeah, we're like plants. We're converting energy into us, basically.
And Elatom Elamine has a book about that. Elatom Breatharian, who I've also interviewed, reference sunlight and photosynthesis and the energy that we can get from the sun. Also, Hotema also talks about the energy of the sun. So, Chris, what's in the Orin that makes it so magical? I mean, everyone talks about the toxicity of Orin. Talk to me about, let's first talk about the good stuff and then let's address this toxicity bit.
Okay. Well, from my own research, and that's how I'm going to preface it, because I'm not going to say I'm 100%. One thing I do know is that my pee is me. It's a derivative. It's blood light, and it contains everything that we have in us. And when we get sick or there's some kind of damage, something happens, we have an extra amount of the antidote in our pee immediately. So I know I'm sure you've heard, read, whatever about people getting snake bites and being able to cure them and that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
The body does that, and then when we take the excess from the pee and dump it back in, we're hitting our system with extra immunity or our pee is everything. It's DNA, it's stem cells, it's nutrients, minerals, proteins, aminos, whatever other name they have for everything.
Antibiotics, astringents, what else has it got in it? It's got hormones in it, and it's got antiseptics in it. We're told that it's so toxic and dirty. However, it's so actually ultra filtered through our kidneys.
Yes.
So it just has nothing dirty about it whatsoever. There's a small bit, and I think this is where, Dr. Morse talks about the toxicity, and he separated our camps here on this because everyone's afraid of the toxicity involved in the urine. Would you comment on that, Chris?
Yes, and I will try to not 100% be myself right now because I usually just blast off, but I try to be positive always. He's helping a lot of people with the advice on eating fruit. Yeah. He is, there's no doubt. Yeah. But I see guys like him, and I know maybe a lot of people aren't going to like me after I say this. I don't really care. I'm not out to be liked. I just want to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And he's a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
He's a gatekeeper because the powers that be realize they can't control this whole thing.
Right.
So they have to keep us at a certain level. Keep you needing fruit at least, and not finding out that you're self-contained. Right. And so the people that follow him, and they have the fan pages. I don't believe in fan pages. I would never have a fan page for myself. It's still, we don't need gurus. You are a guru. You need to be your own guru because everybody's different that he doesn't know. There's no way he's not aware of what pee is. My sister is an RN. She knows it's sterile.
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. How could he possibly not know what we know?
He does know. He does know. And quite honestly, he doesn't follow his own advice. No offense, but I just don't see that he's following his own advice. I'm just going to say that. So now I'm really not liked.
Well, this is it. Dr. Morse has a huge following, right? And so to speak outwardly against him is like a death threat for our own forward action, because we pick up so much negative press by speaking about this fruit and fasting doctor that has helped so many people change their lives. And thank goodness for Dr. Morse, and we respect Dr. Morse. But we've got to shine the light here. I think it's necessary that the light be shone here, and people recognize that, Dr. Sebi was talking about urine therapy, let me correct myself, and Dr. Morse is not, and recognize that Dr. Sebi is no longer, and Dr. Morse is with us. And,
he's thriving.
He's thriving, right? And you've got to see that is the dividing line. Like when you step to shine the light on this part of the healing journey, on this medicine that lies within us, that's where we end up with a problem. that's where we start getting into some trouble with the medical community. However, now what's happening is because of the power of the internet and the numbers of people now that are getting involved, that I can't see, it seems like Oren therapy has now reached a critical mass where it is now coming out. Like, I don't think it has to be, opened up. And now with that, it's showing the light that people like Dr. Morris, God bless Dr. Morris, has been kind of holding a cap on top of this for many, many years. Yes. For the last 20 years or 30 years, this information has been known, and it's been able to be held down by the popularity of his YouTube channel and his book and his courses and his following, who become police officers on posts that people like yourself or myself put out there. And then you've got all these little, fruit rugrats coming around, chipping and making you look like some sort of heathen and negative person. So, how do you win for, bringing forward the light? But this is how the medical community, the powers that be, have always worked, is they've always managed the 8 billion of us by all of us turning against ourselves like a bunch of crabs,
the only way,
pulling ourselves down on top of each other. It's the only way that we can hold ourselves down, is if we all work against each other. As police officers, we go around ripping other people down and stopping people from telling the truth and sharing the truth. And so, this is why we have to have conversations like this, Chris. It's important that this information be shared. How old are you?
Well, let me...
How old are you?
I'm 49 right now. I'll be 50 in October.
Amazing. I'm 46.
I have to throw this out there about the toxicity issue. I legitimately, and I have nothing to sell and nothing to gain with this, I legitimately went 7 months with almost nothing but pee. I just said 95%, to round it off. It could have been 97, 98. I don't know. It was basically, that's all I was doing.
Yep.
And if my pee was toxic, think about this. If your pee is toxic, your pee is just an exponentially diluted version of your blood mixed with whatever other liquids go into your bladder, whatever other water. So if the pee is toxic, how toxic is your blood? And that's after it's been filtered. You're basically dead if your damn pee is toxic. I don't know why people can't just sit and think about that for a second. Your pee cannot be toxic. You would not be standing. It just doesn't seem, at least over any kind of period of time. There's no way.
What we're
so if I went 7 months and I was able to live, able to live and thrive. No pain. I don't sneeze. I don't get sick. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
The toxicity that the fruit fasters are all kind of chipping away at now, the urine therapists, about is like 5% or less of the urine would have some toxic elements in it. So if there's anything in the body that the body wants to remove, that's removed by the kidney. Anything that's in the blood that needs to be removed by the kidney that is not supposed to be in the blood and does have to be removed, that may be 5% or less of what's coming out in the urine. However, that 5% is feedback for the body to know what it needs to adjust or change or heal inside of the body, because the body responds to the snake bite and gets toxicity in. If you're bitten on the foot, the toxicity of that little snake bite, that information is received by the body and excreted within, I've heard seconds, but let's say within minutes, the antidote is in the urine. Like, this has been proven. So the toxicity that's inside of the body is a feedback mechanism or loop or information to the brain for the body to create the antidotes that it needs to heal whatever's wrong inside of the body. So this idea that toxicity needs to be avoided is absolutely incorrect. Incorrect notion that the fruit fasters are toting and discrediting the urine therapists with, and it has to go.
Well, one thing I also was puzzled by initially was how they do a not blood test, but like a urine sample to check for drugs. And I guess I'm not real familiar with drug tests, but I believe they can detect if you've had heroin or things like that too, I think, in the urine. So people say, well, if it's so clean and sterile, how come they can find drugs in there? Well, they're not finding the drug. They're finding the origin of the drug, which would be the poppy, the natural ingredient that's associated with that synthetic drug. That's what they're detecting, not the toxic part. The toxic part all goes out to chute number 2. So all anybody has to do is ask their nurse friend, and there's a million of them because the medical industry is freaking huge, and that's all everybody relies on is the nurses and doctors. Go talk to a nurse and just ask her, is pee, when it comes out, is it sterile? And if they are telling the truth and they actually know what they're talking about, they're going to tell you no. It's not toxic, it's sterile.
And I mean, I just, on the note of toxicity, I got to bring up a talk I had last week with the author of the uropathy book, Laura. What's Laura's first name again? I forget his first name. I'm going to have to include that in this post as well too. He talked about where the lymphatic system actually dumps waste into the vena cava. So there is toxicity from the lymphatic system that enters directly into the venous system. So the whole notion that the lymphatic system waste cannot enter into the blood or enter into the body, and that's a total taboo or a dangerous toxicity that should never happen, is completely false, because that actually happens within the vessel structure of our body, that the lymphatic vessels do empty into the venous system. So can't believe I forget his name. I'm going to say Dr. Laura, but it's not Dr. Laura, but he's the author of the book, and I will pull up his name. He pointed that out on an anatomy chart last week. So, I mean, the whole fruit fasting idea brought on by Dr. Morris, God bless Dr. Morris, brought on by Dr. Morris is a ceiling, is a cap that's holding the planet captured in this toxicity. All the fruit fasters are running around like little police, little privates in the army, and actually are doing a disservice for our planet. And people need to understand that health and healing is something that is attainable for all of us.
Yeah.
No medication is required. No doctors, no medical society is required. You can find your health and your healing within yourself, and it's totally free.
Just to be, clear and everything and upfront, I do eat fruit now. I mean, I don't just sit and do pee. I will tell you, I did a 5-day dry fast after doing a couple other shorter 2 and 3 day dry fasts. And on day 3 and 4, I was famished. On day 5, I felt like I had been nourished that morning. I went for a run. It was unbelievable. And I just wondered what I stopped that day because I had a big, huge watermelon I had bought the day before. And I was just going to drive, man. I was walking around. I went to the gym and met up with one of my friends and said, hey, I haven't eaten or drank anything in 5 days.
Wow.
And he looked at me, he goes, dude, there's really, it's hard to believe because people think you're supposed to die on day 3. Everybody was worried about me. The reason I brought that up is we are free. We are able to live with very little. And on a basic level, let's just say you had nothing but a backpack. My goal was to be able to throw a backpack on my back and walk the earth if I wanted to and not need anything. And if I wanted some fruit, I'll pick it from a tree somewhere because I'm probably going to be in the tropics or Mediterranean or, I'm not going to go to the cold places and try to find whatever food offerings are in those areas. But there's always something to eat. You don't need 3 meals a day. And it's just ridiculous, the whole thing. We bombard ourselves. I wanted to tell you really quick too. I met an awesome human being named Michelle last year, and we both do the same stuff, basically, like everything, fasting, pee, saving it, fruit, the whole thing. We feel the same about the medical industry, just everything. And she's awesome. But I wanted to mention her, that my girlfriend also does everything that I do. And that wasn't a requirement. That was not a requirement. I just happened to get lucky, I guess. And it wasn't luck. I know how the universe works.
Amazing. And I think that's really great that you brought that up, that you've gone beyond, Oren, and you've gone to like dry fasting and total emptiness. And you've recognized then that there's that truth to that breatharian life, that
absolutely.
It's even possible to go beyond any needs whatsoever. Maybe not attainable for extended periods of time. Some people can, some people haven't got there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm inspired to want to go there. I'm trying to strive to get there. I see that as a future possibility, but it's unfooding. This is what it's about. It's about unfooding. It's about getting away from food. Food is not where we get our health from. And by dismantling those thoughts and those behaviors and that whole practice and everything associated with it, we can chip away at it. We can get to the point where actually we can feel nourished, as you said, after 5 days without food or water. You went through a little bit of a rough spot when the body was switching energies, where it's relearning what it's capable of doing, when the system's jumping back on board of what it's capable of, and we're connecting to that deep source energy that is within us, and we all have access to it, and we can always get back to it no matter what. No matter what sin you've done or what you've said or done in your life, you can come back to Jesus and you can be found and born again. All of us can. All of us can.
It's how you maintain it. If you live the lifestyle of mostly fasting, mostly not eating, then doing all this stuff is it's not a big deal. It's really easy, actually. And you know what it really is? Somebody asked me, they said, well, if it's so true that we can live off our pee and we don't need food, why are there people starving all around the world? It's knowledge. It's knowledge, but it's also the mental state. Because in my fast, if I was going for 5 days and I said, you know what? I'm dying. I'm going to die. If I thought like that, guess what? I'm going to die. If you think that way, you will manifest it. Your body will do what you tell it to do. Your mind is going to control.
You've got to be thinking the right words, saying the right words, thinking the right things, planning goals, looking forward. It's got to be a forward thought. And you've also got to detoxify your body, and that takes a little bit of time. Even if you say like 2 years to make it to breatharian, if you're diligent and committed 365 days of the year, like you might be able to do it in 2 years. But we're talking about a complete commitment to this. You've got to get the knowledge. You've got to get the understanding. You got to read some Dr. Morris, some Dr. Eric. You got to read some Dr. Sebi. You got to do some research. You got to read some Hotima. You got to get some knowledge. You got to probably get some accountability. Maybe someone's got to encourage you. You got to get a friend. You got to get some friends. You got to get some associates that are doing that, that are living like that, so you can talk to. that can encourage you and help you move forward and get the right thoughts and words inside of your head. But this is possible. Chris.
Two things.
Awesome.
Two things real quick. You've got to, in my view, if you trust the system, you're not going to get far with this. That's number one. Number two, it's all in your mind. It is all in your mind. You just have to, you've got to have reasons. And sometimes, sadly, you have to go through a lot of pain before you get to the point where you can do this stuff.
Some discomfort. You got to walk through some discomfort. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to walk through some pain, physical pain, psychological pain, emotional pain. You are going to have to turn your back against the system. You're going to have to swim upstream. You're going to have to go against your friends, society, family, perhaps. You may lose some relationships. You may have to get rid of some friends. You may have to let go of some things. However, if you want
You're going to.
If you want
You're
it,
going to.
It's a mindset change. It's a mindset change. That's what it is above all things.
Yep, definitely.
Awesome.
You will manifest what you think.
Awesome. What an important talk today. Thank you very much, Chris, for bringing some more light on this important truth that is within and available to all of us. Thank you very much for sharing the time with me today, bud. I look forward to connecting with you again and further. Awesome dude, man.
Sure. Thanks for having me on. It was great.
Thanks,
great
bro.
to talk to you.
Good to talk to you.